Hi guys, Buildzoid here, and today we're going to be doing some memory overclocking on a Crucial Ballistix 2x. You know what? This is just going to be so much easier if I do this. Bam. That's why I prepared it. So yeah, we're going to be overclocking one of these kits on the ASUS Maximus 12 Extreme along with a 10900K. I have no idea what to expect. I've never worked with one. I've never worked with this kit. In fact, I've literally been like saving this kit so that I could do a video showing you what like my memory overclocking procedure looks like when I'm dealing with a memory chip that I have no idea what I'm dealing with. Because like if I'm dealing with like Samsung B-Die, then obviously I already know how it's supposed to time. So even if I get a completely new kit, I already know roughly all the subtimings, that kind of thing. I have no idea what this does. I don't even know what die revision it is. I have no idea. Like for all like like yeah, I have no idea what this is. So this is kind of the experience you get when you buy a new kit of memory. Like this is what you should do if you have a kit of memory. You have no idea what it is, and you want to overclock it. So um, let's get into it. I'm just gonna blow this up, and yeah. Now I'm not going to be going for full stability here because well, you can't test full stability in a 30-minute video, but we are going to be going for just like the ability to run Geekbench 3, and hopefully I have an operating system that works on this. Yeah, it should work. So first things first, we're going to enable XMP, which for whatever reason ASUS has XMP enable being really weird. Okay, we're just going to use XMP1. Actually, no, we're going to use XMP2 because that's the default of the actual memory stick itself. So I'm going to use XMP2. And because the thing is like this really like in this like I just find it annoying that ASUS does this because technically speaking, okay, so the memory sticks have just one XMP profile. Like the whole XMP1 load the DIMM's default XMP memory timings TCL, TRC, DTRP with BCLK frequency and other memory parameters optimized by ASUS, which if I'm not mistaken, a lot of that time includes ASUS doing your subtimings, like doing the subtimings. So it's just kind of like, yeah, the don't know. Um, anyway, so this is completely stock right now. So yeah, we'll just start with. No, we won't start with all stock because I don't like actually. I don't need to worry about that. AVX offset off. CPU core ratio sync all. We're gonna go to 51. BCLK free. We don't need to mess with that yet. DRAM frequency, we can leave that alone. We can leave that alone. Disable this. Wait, did they remove oh, remove all limits. This is just because we're gonna, like, it's a manual overclock. I'm just using it to disable all the power limits. Disable that. This we can just go. Oh, wait, that's cache ratio. 40. Actually, you know what? We're gonna go 44 on that. Just because I'm not sure where the CPU actually goes up. Like, I don't, well, no, this chip should do 45. But anyway, cache core voltage, we're going to go manual, 1.43. DRAM voltage, we're going to leave that alone. IO, SA, we're going to leave that alone. I kind of want to see what the motherboard defaults to. It shouldn't be too insane because 4000 megahertz is not that high, but at high frequencies, a lot of motherboards will auto to like 1.6 volts. System agent, which is ridiculous. Anyway, we're going to go to level 4 and going to disable that. And that's good enough for me. Actually, wait. No, we're going to max out the memory current capability and max out the memory switching frequency. Not that I really expect it to do anything, but you never know. So we'll just, like, I have the options. I'm going to use them. Though there's a lot of motherboards which have, like, really weak sauce single phase memory power, and they're still perfectly good for memory overclocking. So it's just like, yeah, I'm doing that because it's there, not because it's necessarily useful. So now we get to find out if my operating system works with this motherboard, because I didn't actually check. Why did it boot loop? Okay, looks like it works. I guess the board was just figuring out something. Yeah, so this part's unnecessary, isn't it? Like, as in, I should have set this up before doing the video, but, yeah. So, this one, like, previously it was on a different Z490 board. I don't know why it's taking so long. Like, I figured it wouldn't be that bad because I went from Z490 back to Z4, like, to a different Z490. I miss Windows 7. Windows 7 was so much better. Like, it either booted or it didn't work at all. It wasn't, you didn't get this waiting for devices to get ready. Like, I'm even using the same GPU as the previous motherboard. There we go. And the GPU, of course, does not work with the capture card, right? Yeah, I did get that right. Okay, well, the mouse doesn't work. Thank you, Windows. You spent all that time to not make my mouse work. Awesome. And there we go, we got the mouse back. Okay, so we're gonna just run Geekbench. And I guess we can also run IDA. We're gonna run IDA first. Because most people want IDA, even though I actually consider Geekbench a better memory Geekbench a somewhat better memory benchmark. Like, IDA is, like, extremely synthetic. Geekbench is still pretty synthetic. And then, you know, well, it depends on what workload you're running. But IDA is like IDA can have some very odd behaviors with certain, like, timing adjustments where they don't really affect IDA too much, but they do affect a lot of other workloads a lot. So, yeah. Also, I just kind of don't have like, I'm not used to, like, I don't have a good memory of, like, baseline values for IDA performance. Whereas for Geekbench 3, it's just like, if we get certain scores, it's like, oh yeah, this is great. So, like, this right here, I have no idea. Because I don't normally run IDA with 4000 megahertz memory. Which reminds me, we should have maybe opened CPU-Z. 45.1 nanoseconds latency. Yeah, it's pretty terrible, but that's because we're on all auto settings right now. Where is CPU-Z? Oh, right, I have the Gigabyte version. I'm looking for the vanilla version, and it's like, no, I have the Gigabyte skin. So, yeah, 4000, 18, 19, 1939. 2T command rate, of course, because that's what it defaults to. So let's run Geekbench now. I don't expect it to be a particularly high score. What I find really interesting with these memory sticks is that they're single rank. Well, I don't know for a fact that they're single rank, but they are single-sided. So they should be single rank. There's like a weird exception to that rule where you have, like, dual die packages which have 2 memory chips in one package. But I don't think these DIMMs use that. Again, I have no idea what's actually on these. So yeah, it'll be interesting to see where these top out in terms of the overclocking. I think I'm gonna just ramp the frequency first, because that's like the easy thing, is always like figure out what your max frequency is, and then start worrying about getting the timings down, because there's a lot of different memory ICs where technically you can clock them up pretty high, but you can't necessarily tighten them that much. So I'm gonna go and say that this probably isn't dual rank just because of the memory performance. I'm pretty sure this is single rank. There's another way we can check. So we're going to just shut down and restart. Like, it would be very weird for these to be dual rank, but it's not necessarily impossible. So that's kind of why I'm wondering about it. Also, like, my only other experience with 16 gigabit Micron was, like, it topped out at 3666, which is, like, nowhere, like, that is significantly below 4000, so, like, I have no idea what this is. Like, there is no way I've ever worked with this memory chip before. Oh, interesting. So they pre-configure all your, they do pre-configure the secondaries in the XMP profile. There's some memory sticks that don't bother with doing that. As in, they'll just do your primaries and the motherboards can deal with the secondaries. And these are about as loose as what you'd expect for an XMP profile. So nothing too surprising there. Right, ASUS BIOS. So from here, we can just... These are all... so basically what I'm doing here is... These are all timings for either dual rank or dual DIMM configurations. And, well, we have one DIMM in each channel, and we have one rank in each channel. So if I set all of these to 1, it should still work, because these timings literally do not apply. Though I have actually, like, run into motherboard, like, situations where that rule of thumb doesn't actually work. Okay, but that did work. Cool. So yeah, these are single rank. Because if these were dual rank, then this wouldn't post, because there's no way you're running 111 for every single one of the DR timings. If you had dual rank DIMMs, they would probably bottom out at 4 instead of 1. So yeah, that's why I did that. Okay, so the trick to overclocking any RAM that you don't know what it is we're going to set everything to auto. So the motherboard will take care of that for us. We're going to put this into 2T command rate. And then we're going to go like 21, 27. Actually, this is... Let's go 28 or something. And then like... I think this tops out at 63, which that's totally unnecessary, so we're not going to do that. We're just going to go to like 48 for the TRAS. So we're just going to loosen out the primary timings a lot. Because now we're just going to see how far we can push the frequency. And admittedly, a lot of people would be like, oh, maybe just push the frequency with the XMP timings. But in my opinion, that's kind of like, well, that's just a waste of time. It's just like, no, like, I don't actually, like, I want to know where these top out in general. I don't really care where they top out on XMP. So we're going to go straight to 4133, which, like, I would assume has to post. But again, I have no idea what to expect. I've never worked with these before. Are you kidding me? It's already upset about that? It is very upset about that. So I'm going to safe boot. Because... Okay, that's weird. I was not expecting that. I really hope I didn't, like... So one of the issues is that sometimes some motherboards just have crap support for certain memory sticks or certain memory ICs. So there's a small chance that I might have, like, chosen the wrong motherboard for messing around with this memory kit. Yeah, that's potentially gonna suck. Put that in mode 2. Like, there's no way that's actually a problem. I wonder if maybe... Okay, wait. This is so... Like, I did not expect that to not work. I guess, you know, we're in for the ride then. And I'm just going to put these back to auto because I get, like... They shouldn't technically affect anything because we are in a dual, like, single rank configuration. But, I've run into that being an issue in the past with this board, which doesn't make any sense. Like, those timings literally shouldn't apply. We don't have a second rank. Oh, and now it works. Interesting. So it might have been the Maximus tweak, or it might have just been, like, the TCL being too high. There's a lot of, like, weird sort of... Like, memory does weird stuff. That's why I don't like memory overclocking very much. And there's not much you can do about it other than being extremely methodical with your test procedure. Like, there's certain memory ICs where your memory clock... actually, no. The settings you could run were entirely dependent. Like you couldn't, or no, I'm saying that wrong. The problem with those ICs was that their memory, like their voltage tolerance, would actually scale with settings. So if you were at like 2133 CL15 and you set 1.6 volts on them, they wouldn't post. But if you were at say 2666 CL12 and you shoved 1.6 volts into them, they would work. Which was just like, which is just incredibly annoying to work with, because you can't just, like you're set, like what works depends on multiple factors being set correctly at the same time. So yeah, that's really, really annoying to work with. I hope we're not going to be dealing with that here. But for now, this is working, so we're just going to go to 4400. It would be cool if we actually, like, 4400 on 16 gig DIMMs is already, like for daily usage, kind of neat. Because, again, these are single rank, so the performance compared to, like, a dual rank setup isn't really there. But even then, it's like, even if you're running just straight up single rank DIMMs, then, 4400 is actually kind of, like, it's relatively up there, depending on, how high you are willing to go with your system agent voltage. Because once you go up to like 4400, 4533 megahertz, with a lot of CPUs, you will need a lot of system agent voltage. And then when you get up to like 4400, 4800 megahertz, which, like, technically doable, you just need so much system agent voltage that I wouldn't ever daily that, because it's just ridiculous how much voltage you need to run on that rail. Speaking of system agent, what did the board default? Oh, right now we're in safe mode, so it's not showing anything. So I'm going to assume that that's a TRCD limit, and we're going to bump up TCL to 19. So TRCD is normally like the difficult timing. That's the one that complains. That's the one your memory controller complains about. And okay, now we boot. Cool. Now, admittedly, I did change TCL and TRCD at the same time, so it's just like, oh, which one fixed the issue? I don't actually know. I don't actually care, because right now we're just trying to ramp the frequency up as fast as possible. So, that's why I'm implementing multiple adjustments at the same time. Once we get up to a high enough frequency, that's when I'm going to start worrying about, can we run the TCL lower? Can I lower the TRCD? Can I lower, various specific timings? And you'll notice that at this point I've kind of actually I haven't really slowed down, because I went 4133, 4266, 4400, 4533. So you will notice that I'm actually sticking to the, like if I go to this, right, then I am sticking to the 1:3:3 ratio. And the reason why I'm using the 1:3:3 ratio is that, in my experience, it is generally more stable than the 100 to 100 ratio for memory. And there's no performance effect from that. It's just how the memory controller gets the various speeds. So, yeah, there's no reason to run 100 to 100 instead of 100 to 133 from a sort of like performance perspective. Okay, so that doesn't work again. We could also raise the voltage at this point. Also, the safe boot button is amazing. Literally the greatest button to be ever put on a motherboard, as far as I'm concerned. And now I just realized, it's like, oh yeah, somebody's definitely going to be like, could you explain what all the timings do? Well, I could if I actually knew, and then you might be like, but Buildzoid, how do you know what to set them to? Well, it turns out it doesn't really matter what they do. Yeah, like, a lot of the timings is just like, knowing what the timing does doesn't necessarily stop you from, like, doesn't necessarily help you configure it correctly. Which, like, there are some timing relationships that do exist that are actually useful to know, but there's nothing really like critical most of the time. So yeah, that's why I basically don't remember, like, that's why I don't actually know off the top of my head what basically any of the timings do. now that I think about it. Anyway, so now it doesn't want to post again. 29. I wonder if there's like something weird happening to the TCWL. And of course, this being an ASUS motherboard. Oh no, we can't see. Why? Oh, right, we're at 2133 again. I'll set that to 20, and I'm going to punch 21 in here. We'll see if this posts. Yeah. So 4466, auto system agent voltage is probably really high. So at this point, we should probably check on what the motherboard is doing to the unfortunate memory controller on this CPU. Because to be fair, like, I've not been very nice to it either. Yeah. Yeah, see, this, like, if you buy a kit that has an XMP of over 4,400 megahertz, that right there is, not great. Let's just put it that way. I would not run that much voltage on my memory, or more like on my CPU's memory controller for long-term use. For short-term use, sure, but not for long-term use. So we're going to drop this down. Like, I honestly, like, for long-term use, I wouldn't go above 1.4, which even ASUS, like, where do they have the color limit? Right, so the color indicators is, like, red on ASUS basically means that it's, you know, like, extreme voltage, which, yeah, up to 1.4 is fine, though. The thing is, at 4666, this CPU's memory controller is not that great, so there's a pretty good chance we won't be able to boot if I just set it to 1.4. So this kind of sucks, because, but, you know, let's see. Let's see, maybe these DIMMs aren't as difficult to run as some of the other memory kits out there, and actually for I/O we're going to go to 1.3. But now I don't have high hopes. Oh, great, it boots. So, let's see if we can do 4800. If this does 4800, I'll be really impressed. Just because, like, it's 16 gig DIMMs doing 4800 megahertz. And 55. Okay, so the 55 basically tells you need more system agent. So, again, like, I wouldn't run over 1.4 for long-term use. So, I wouldn't do that for a daily application. But I do actually want to see if these DIMMs are capable of 4800. So I'm going to smash 1.6 volts into that memory, into the system agent, and we'll see what happens. Because I want to, like, I want to see if these do 4800. Like, that would be really cool if they did. Not that my CPU could run it, it's just kind of like, oh, neat. 1.6. There might still be a timing issue, but the 55 told us that, you know, we've got, definitely I had too little system agent. If we get stuck on something else now, then probably I need to do something with the timings. And we're still getting a 55. Unfortunately, 55 is a pretty general memory error, so, like, a lot of the time it's 55, too little system agent. Sometimes 55 is too little memory voltage, too little, like, or bad timings or whatever, so, yeah, but the first one I'd suspected 4800 would be system agent being too low. So, apparently it's not that. So I'm going to get, at this point we're just going to bump up the memory voltage. Now, I'm not sure, like, I don't know what IC these use. I'm not sure what like, maximum voltage these are safe to. I would assume, though, that, you know, you can go 10% over the XMP, so up to 1.4. Like, 1.45 is just generally, like, there might be a couple exceptions to that, but generally for DDR4, 1.45 volts is safe. And then there's some kits which will tolerate like up to 1.5 volts and in excess of 1.5 volts just fine. Though personally, the thing is, a lot of the stuff that tolerates 1.5 volts is also extremely, and voltages in excess of 1.5 volts. It's also extremely temperature sensitive. So like while you can technically run it at the really high voltages, it's just like getting it stable at those higher voltages is really annoying. So I don't usually go with that high memory voltages. Okay, so that works. It's just 4800. I'll be very surprised if that posts, but hey, who knows? And I'm gonna just bump up the voltage already, in advance. And 55. Not sure what, at this point, I have no idea which part of the, it could be system agent. Like, this CPU's memory controller isn't great, so I could set the system agent back to auto and see what the motherboard decides to do. Actually, the motherboard would just default to it was defaulting to 1.66 at 4666. So actually, I don't need to wonder what the motherboard will do. I can just punch it in myself. So that's what we're gonna do. Okay, nope. Maybe I have to loosen out the timings a bit more. But at this point, well, or we could just shove more memory voltage into it. I'll loosen out TRCD and raise memory voltage. That's what I'll do. Because I suspect it's TRCD limited. Actually, it shouldn't be, because 4000 CL9, TRCD 19 at 4000 should be, we shouldn't necessarily be limited already by that, but, oh well, it doesn't hurt to raise it, and then I'm going to bump up the memory voltage to 1.6 volts. Review samples. You can be brave with them. That's the great thing about that. Okay, no. Honestly, if this booted 4933, I'd be extremely surprised because this CPU's ability to do... I've not managed to boot more than 4900 on this CPU yet. On any motherboard. So, yeah, I didn't really have high expectations when I set the multiplier to 4933. So now we're going to drop down to 4666. And see what kind of timings we can actually run, because obviously at this point I don't see a point trying to push it further, and I also don't think there's any point trying to 4800 just is we're already at the limits of what the CPU can do in general at this point, so I don't see the point trying to fight it. So we're gonna go 1.4, 1.45. And then for the DRAM timing control, 18, 26. Actually, we could, there's so there's generally not any magic formula for setting all of your timings, but you can, as a sort of general guideline, divide your so what I'm doing right now is just 4000 divided by 19 is 210. Actually, the better way to do this would be if I did 19 divided by 4000 and then multiplied that by 4666. So for 4666, theoretically, I should only need a TRCD of 22.1635. So 23 should work at 4666. We'll see. The thing is, a lot of the time as the frequency goes up, the timing requirements get worse. But okay, it worked. So like if you can run 1600 or like if you can run like 3200 CL16, then theoretically you should be able to run 3600 CL18, but not necessarily. So yeah. Anyway, it's nice that that worked. So at this point, we should probably run Geekbench just to make sure that, like, at least Geekbench passes. Like, Geekbench is by no means a memory stress test, but it is certainly a lot heavier than, like, Cinebench, which basically doesn't use the memory at all, and a lot of other sort of like benchmarks out there. So, yeah, we're gonna do just a quick test that this isn't super like massively unstable. So, start with IDA, I guess. Man, my mouse sensitive. Oh, right, I had it cranked all the way. So we're just going to run the memory benchmark. So I don't think the DIMM's maxed out. I'm going to probably end up testing these DIMMs for like high frequency with a Ryzen CPU just because I know for a fact that I have multiple Ryzen chips capable of over 5 gigahertz. Oh boy. Why are the speeds so bad? Man, that performance right there is oof. That is really bad. I must have screwed something. Let's see what the motherboard did. Okay, 1823. That's fine. It's not that. Oh. And it locked up. It just crashed. Oh, wait, no. The mouse locked up. The system didn't. Oh, I guess IDA's latency test is a kind of intense. Okay, so what can we see? Yeah, this right here. That's bad. These 34s, that's really bad right there. That's definitely great for like that's terrible for performance. That's probably why we have basically no bandwidth is the combination of our like this 34, that 45 and that 42. That's basically most of why this is currently really slow. Oh yeah, I guess TCWL doesn't need to be at 20 if I'm at TCL 18. So we could knock the latency down a bit. TRFC, I don't know where it goes. We'll see. TRRDs, I would be very surprised if they have to stay that high. TWR, same thing. I'd be very surprised if it has to stay this high. RTP, I don't like that timing. It tends to cause me, like, that one tends to screw me over, so I don't usually mess with it. WTRL and WTRS on Intel are just used to configure these two timings right here. So we actually don't have to worry about these. We don't have to set those. If I start messing with these two, those will automatically go down. TREFI, well, that's just default TREFI for high memory speeds. So that's no surprise. Like, there's nothing really wrong with that, but yeah, it's not going to be great for performance because that's the auto setting. So yeah, the tertiaries are terrible, which is why the performance is atrocious. There's no reason to run Geekbench at this point, though. You know what? I do want to fire off a Mem Test if I have it, which I should. And man, the mouse keeps locking up for some reason, which is super annoying. What is that? That's okay, no, that's a really small one. Somebody should label their... Oh, there we go. That's 28 gigs, right? That's 5 gigs, 10 gigs, 20 gigs. Yeah, that's like 29 gigs or something, so we should be able to run that. Performance. Yeah, that's 30 gigs of Mem Test right there. And if we Windows tab, oh yeah, this is really stable. Like, as you can clearly see, this is that might be part of why the mouse was locking up. It's just like, oh yeah, this is one hell of a memory overclock. Yeah, so I get the feeling 46. Oh no, the desktop is gone. Oh, it's back. Okay, this is falling apart. Like, the kind of funny thing with unstable memory is, like, sometimes you can see the whole system just sort of disintegrating before your eyes. Like random graphical artifacts and glitching and lagginess and general awfulness. So, yeah, that was not stable at all. Now, the issue is, I think at 4666 that is mostly a system agent voltage problem. Because the bandwidth was atrocious. So we're going to drop down to 4533, which is a much more reasonable speed. And we're going to, like, that's still a decent overclock, but yeah, the thing is, and at this point 22 should be possible. We're going to leave TRAS alone. TRRDs, I'm going to say, I want to try 4.4. Like, there is very few, I've run into very few ICs that won't do 4.416. And actually, just for stability's sake, we'll start with 6.416 just because that's sort of a more common setting for a lot of memory chips. But yeah, if that doesn't work, I'll be very surprised. TCWL, we can should be able to set that just straight to 18. TCKE, we should be able to set that to 1. This right here, this is not okay. We're going to go down to 16 on those. Actually, no, we're not going to change those because those tend to be kind of critical to the ability to boot. Admittedly, like, the board has safe boot, so I don't really have to worry about screwing anything up, because if I screw something up, I can just safe boot and fix whatever I screwed up without even having to, like, save a profile or clear CMOS or anything. So, yeah, having a motherboard with a safe boot button makes you very lazy, which is why I like having a safe boot button, because I am very lazy, just by nature. So, you want to get yourself a motherboard that allows you to be even lazier than you normally are. And then, like, that makes memory overclocking much, much nicer. So, that worked. So, which was exactly what I expected. That's why I went straight for 6.4. So at this point, I'd be interested to see how low we can push the TRFC. And actually, I can be, again, like, we can just skip straight to 700, because if it doesn't post, I have a safe boot. I don't have to worry about that. And post it does, so we can drop that another 100. Actually, yeah, no, we'll drop it another 100. Like, you could also drop it in increments of 200 or something, but, well, actually, to be completely honest, like, I have a safe boot button. There's no reason to be careful with this. Let's just go straight to 400 and see if it works. Like, 400 TRFC at 4533 is impressive. Like, if that works, that is impressive. And it doesn't work, but that's fine, because this is an Apex. I wasn't really expecting it to do 400. So at this point, we'll bump it up 100, right? Like, the thing is, like, you don't want to, if you're, like, changing any memory timing, you don't really want to be going in really small increments, because, especially for something like TRFC, like, if you were testing TRFC, like, 10 ticks at a time, you'd be here all day, because it would just take forever before it bottoms out. So the easiest thing to do is to bottom it out early, right? As in, get to settings that don't post, and then potentially work upwards in relatively large steps. Though, admittedly, with some memory ICs which have really high TRFC requirements, you might end up in the same situation where instead of, like, spending forever walking down the ladder, you're spending forever climbing back up. Here's a perfect example of that. I don't know why. No, I do know why. I just pilot to mashing delete whenever a system is booting. Okay, so 500 also doesn't work. That's surprising, because I was honestly expecting a bit more headroom on that. But at the same time, like, there's no, I have literally no idea what memory chips this uses. So it's like me being, like, I shouldn't be surprised. I have literally no idea what I was expecting. Like, I shouldn't have been expecting anything, because I have never run these. And now I'm like, okay, well, now I'm a bit disappointed. Because 600 TRFC is like, that's up there. Like, my criteria is, like, how close can we get to, like, B-die memory timings for memory performance? So 600 TRFC, we're at, like, twice as much TRFC as B-die at this point, which, yeah, that's not great. At the same time, there's, like B-die's, well, it's not entirely an anomaly with how low the TRFC can go, but it is kind of weird that on B-die you can go to, like, 200, like, at 4533, 300 TRFC on B-die is completely doable. So, yeah, and it is kind of low. I don't want to set it to 700, but obviously 600 doesn't work, so we're going to use that. We're running 46... Oh, no, wait, we're not at 4666 anymore. Oh, that's a shame. It could have been 4666 with 666 TRFC. And then there must have been one more, like, there must be, like, at least one more timing that I could configure to have 3 6s in it. I guess TREFI. Because TREFI is, like, as long as it's set to around some value, we could have gone for, like, 30,000 with 60, like, with 666 tacked on for no good reason. Okay, so 666 does actually work. So 650 probably also works, but... do I care? I do actually care about the performance, so we're going to go to 650. Though, if this was my daily and I was sharing a screenshot of, like, my daily memory settings, I might just keep the 666 for lols. Oh, you could also put a 1337 in your TREFI. Like, instead of just having, like, 32,000 or something, you could have, like, 31,337 for TREFI. And it would perform basically the same as 32,000 because the timing difference isn't that big. But then in screenshots, like, yeah. You could have a completely meme set of memory timings. I don't know. I'm in a weird mood today. So, yeah, you get the enhanced Buildzoid experience. What did I want to change next? Okay, so we've got our TRRDs about as low as they go. TRFC is very unlikely to go any lower. TREFI should probably work at 32,000. The thing is, TREFI is a bit fiddly for memory, for stability testing. But it also has, like, a huge performance impact. So, like, admittedly, we're not going for full stable settings here, so, yeah, there's no reason not to max it out. Unfortunately, it maxes out at 65,000. I'm just going to max it out. There we go. And at this point, if this boots, we're going to Windows, we're going to run Geekbench, we're going to run IDA, and we're going to open up Mem Test to see if it immediately just spews out errors everywhere. I mean, if we can even make it into Windows. Like, you can get memory timings which will get you into the BIOS, but they won't get you into Windows. But I don't think that I'm on timing. I don't think I'm on settings that aggressive just yet. Did it? Oh no, it didn't crash. That's annoying with the capture card. Anyway, so IDA. Though right now, because I'm assuming our tertiaries are still terrible. Yeah, so our memory, like the bandwidth we're gonna get is gonna still suck, because the tertiaries are still awful right now. So there's not really much point in running this, because the like TRDWRSG is awful. TRDWRDG is awful. WRRDSG awful. WRRDDG also awful. So terrible, terrible. Oh, what? Yeah, see? For, we're at 4533 and moving 43 gigs of data per second. Like, you can get these kinds of, like, we literally had more bandwidth when I was at 4000, when we were on the XMP settings, because the tertiaries weren't screwed up. So yeah, that's not great. Latency's down, though. No, I didn't want to rerun it. It's like the fact that the buttons aren't like they don't look like buttons, right? Like, who would have thought that double clicking the latency value would rerun the test? Anyway, so at this point, let's run Geekbench, which I expect to be atrocious because Geekbench is very, like, the memory portion of it is very much a bandwidth test, but the reason I like Geekbench is it's far heavier than IDA 64 in terms of memory stability. The Dijkstra test has a pretty good, like, is pretty reliable at crashing bad memory like really bad memory overclocks. It's not like I would use it as a stress test, but it is a convenient, like, memory binning tool, in my opinion. You know, if you just want to quickly check if one kit of memory is better than another kit of memory, then can you pass Dijkstra at settings XYZ is a pretty good way of doing that. Or more like, can you even can you actually finish Geekbench 3 at settings XYZ is a pretty good way of doing that. And it gives you a performance number at the very end. Though right now it's going to be extremely low because the tertiaries are just so very bad. So next we're going to fix the tertiaries because this is a joke. This is atrocious. Like, a good daily Geekbench score is around, for Intel, you'd be aiming at around 8,000. If you can go up to 9,000, that's actually impressive. But yeah, around 8,000 is kind of what I would be aiming for a daily setup. Yeah, so 5K is just no. Like, that is just nope. Anyway, so let's see how unhappy Mem Test is right now. And the shortcut for blowing it up like this is Windows Tab. Oh, it's not puking out errors immediately like it was before. Right? Like, before it was literally just a constant stream of errors. So yeah, I think at 4666 it was just like the memory, like the system agent voltage wasn't high enough. Like, I don't think it was a timing issue with the memory sticks. I think like the memory sticks were probably stable. It's just that all of the data has to go through the memory controller, and on the way through the memory controller, it would get screwed up. And Windows is lagging because it's using all the RAM. Go. I mean, I could have just shut down from that, but like, there was no reason for me to close all the Mem tests, but I wanted to. Okay, so now we're gonna fix the second tertiaries. So that 30, like the 34s need to go. Like, these two need to go. And we're going to go straight to 16 because I think that should work. I'm not going to, like, I can't guarantee that it'll work, but I think that should work. Now, the WRD timings, those are much more sensitive. So RDWR, in my experience, like on good memory, you can normally run them as low as like 12, or if you're like, depends on how much stability, like if you're benchmarking, you can often push them all the way down to like 10, like 11, 10, maybe even into single digits. But if you're going for actual like full stability, in my experience, they normally end up between somewhere between 12 and 16, at least on Samsung B die. This is obviously not Samsung B die, but I have high hopes. I should have taken a screenshot of the timing configurator when we were on the like XMP settings, because obviously the bandwidth was pretty good back then. So, you know, it could have given me a reference of if the board is just being stupid with the sub timings for no good reason. Which it looks like it is being stupid with for no good reason, because that just booted. So that's great. So now we should have a lot of our memory bandwidth right back, because those tertiary timings are absolutely critical to overall memory bandwidth. So where are the SGs in? Okay, so WR. Actually, I'm gonna set all of this to 4, which is basically the same thing as setting them all to 1. But the thing is, when I've set them all to 1 in the past, I did occasionally have some weird like training issues, which like again, it shouldn't do that, but the board just does that. On other motherboards, I've not had any issues setting them all to 1, but yeah, with this board, I'm not sure, so I'm not gonna do that. So we're going to like knock these down by 4, just lower both of them by 4, and see what that does. Okay, it still trains. Cool. So on B die for daily, both of those should go down to like 28, 24. But again, like I have no idea what these memory chips are capable of, because I have no idea what they are. So yeah, I'm just gonna go straight to 28, 3228. Like again, I have a safe boot button, so I'm feeling pretty brave here. Right, there's not really like there's not a big loss of time for screwing up the timings, because with some motherboards, if you screw up your timings, they're just going to be stuck in a boot loop forever until you either clear the BIOS, or well, that's it. Like you're going to be stuck in a boot loop forever. So yeah, but if you have a safe boot button, it's just like, you know, just feel free to experiment, because there's really no consequences for screwing up. With your memory timings. Like, worst case scenario, it's just not going to turn on. And then you have to, like, well, it's not going to, it's going to get stuck, and you're going to have to hit the safe boot button, which really isn't that big a deal. So now we're going to try 1212. I don't know. Let's try 1212. Like, I think it's a bit low for 4533, but I'll still try it. And now we're going to run IDA, just to show you just what a massive difference this like small adjustment makes to the bandwidth. Assuming that we can get into Windows again, and it doesn't crash while trying to run IDA. Nah, it still trains. I guess I could also try lowering the TCL at this point, because we are admittedly at more voltage than the XMP. Also, we're about, 20, what, now, 500. Well, we're also a decent, there's a, the frequency bump is pretty high, so I might not necessarily be able to lower the TCL, but anyway, let's try Geekbench. Because, like, if it crashes Geekbench, then it doesn't matter how fast it is in IDA. Moment of truth. And it passed. Cool. Yeah, there's a small chance this might actually run even lower tertiaries than what I'm used to. We're only... Why are we only getting 5,700? Like, WTR... Like, yeah, see, this is why I said earlier that I don't bother with those, because if you just adjust these two get adjusted to match. I'm not sure why the score is so low. It should be a lot higher at this point. Like, these are fine. Like, for the timings that I'm running, those are fine. TC, like, this is fine, this is fine, this is fine. That is, like, that could definitely tighten up, but... Why is this so low? What does IDA say? Wait, where's CPU-Z? Oh, right, Gigabyte CPU-Z. I keep looking for the purple CPU-Z icon, and it's just, now it has black Buildzoid. Yeah, it is running the right frequency, the CPU is running the right speed. I have no idea why it's just scoring so low right now. Right, same group. Oh, these could be lower. Like, that one could be 4. That can be 4. That shouldn't really... Like, I don't think that should do that much at this point. Oh, why am I running latency? I was supposed to run a bandwidth test. What are we getting? 43 nanoseconds. I think that's worse though. Like, I think previously it was getting 42. And we're still only getting 43 gigs. What on earth? How is it only getting 43 gigs? At this, like... I guess I should have done all the tertiaries instead of just some of them? Also, I'd expect this to be able to run TWR 16. Oh, wait, this is a... Wait a minute. I think there's a timing somewhere down here that... I think that should... We'll see once we get into Windows. Yeah, so that should be 4. That should be 4. Everything else is already 4, so that's fine. I don't need to worry about that. I'd be very surprised though if this small timing adjustment I'm making right now is gonna like massively... Well, I wouldn't be. They're tertiaries, but... Like, the thing is, I don't think I've ever had those on 7 before. This is the issue with me just like autopilot, like me just always using B-die. It's just like I don't run into weird performance disparities because it's always the same timings. So I just manually set every single timing, and then it's like, yeah, of course the performance is good because you're running the same settings every time. Well, the video is going over an hour. I was kind of hoping to keep this less than an hour, but memory overclocking is very time intensive, so... There we go. Now we're getting the, like, okay, it's 64 gigs. It's not bad. That's not bad at all. I was kind of hoping for more, but okay, it was just those. So yeah, tertiaries, very important. Very, very important. If you don't, like, if your XMP profile outperforms your manual overclock, it's because your tertiaries got screwed up, probably. So now let's run Geekbench 3. And I would expect 7,500 maybe? Like, I don't expect this to get 8,000 just because TRCD is kind of high. TCL isn't really that low. TRFC is pretty high. Yeah, that's the main thing is, like, TRFC right now still kind of sucks. TRCD kind of sucks. Yeah, so we'll see. We'll see what it does. And it did pass Dijkstra, which is like a pretty decent sign for the stability. Of course, it's not a Mem Test, it's not a Lin pack, but it's better than running... Like, you can run Cinebench at like 50 to 100 megahertz more memory clock than you can run Geekbench. Because Cinebench just doesn't put any load on the memory. Oh, we actually got a K. I'll be damned, I was not expecting that. That's good. That's impressive. Okay, we got 8K, that's nice. So now we can restart. And, like, now I want to actually mess with the primaries. So, TRCD maybe 21? I don't know, maybe it's scale... Well, maybe TRCD on this memory chip scales with voltage. Right, because like that's kind of the big thing with most memory chips compared to Samsung B-die is just like Samsung B-die's TRCD scales with voltage. So if you just mash more volts into it, you can run lower TRCD. Whereas most other memory chips, the TRCD is just kind of like it's X and it doesn't change unless you like lower operating temperatures or something. So let's try 21. 16's a little optimistic for 4533. We can definitely try 17. So this is fast memory, though. Like, it does 8K, and I haven't, like... Admittedly, I've not, you know, proven that it's fully stable or anything, but, 09. Okay, so obviously one of the timings is too low now, so we just safe boot again. If you had a motherboard without safe boot, you'd be saving a profile and clearing CMOS all the damn time, so... Yeah, safe boot, honestly, more useful than basically any other motherboard button, as far as I'm concerned. And they don't, like, in my opinion, motherboards wouldn't even need to have it as a button. It could just be like just like a jumper for safe boot, which MSI has on the Z490 Unify. And I was actually strongly considering using the Z490 Unify for this video, but then I was like, yeah, but I want to play with the Apex, and like the Apex actually has a safe boot button, and it's a 2-dimmer, so you know this kit makes far more sense on a motherboard where you literally only have 2 DIMM slots. Because if you have a 4-DIMM motherboard, you can also run 4x8 instead of just 2x16. So it was like, no, high performance 2x16. I mean, what better motherboard? Like, what motherboard is more fitting for such a kit than an Apex, right? Because you literally can't run anything else on this. So, okay, well, maybe I shouldn't be... Well, again, you know, we have safe boot. So if this doesn't boot, then obviously the TRCD was not the issue, and the TCL probably is. Okay, so TCL too low at this point. Which I was kind of expecting. Like, the CL16 at 4533 is kind of insane. For less than 1.5 volts memory voltage. I assume if I raise the memory voltage, it would do it, though. Not that I care to prove that. So we're going to go back up to 17, which is fast. Like, for 4533, CL17 is fast. Assuming it works. Yeah, we're not going to play with those. Not like, the thing is, my experience with tuning RTLs is that it just, well, I don't tune RTLs, let's just put it that way. It's far simpler that way. It's just like, I just don't do RTLs at all. Okay, so 18 it is. I wonder if, like, so the interesting thing with TCL and TCWL is that TCWL will often go significantly below TCL. So just because TCL is like, so right now, instead of raising both of them up to 18, I'm going to raise TCL up to 18 on its own, and we'll see if that posts. All right. I'm really not a fan of the, like, laggy scrolling in ASUS motherboards. Like, the item selection bar will, you know, go off screen because the motherboard doesn't scroll as quickly as as you can go through the options, which, in my opinion, is a bit dumb. Okay, so yeah, TCL 18 works, but with TCWL 17, which is roughly what I expected. So let's see if we can do 16. Because that'll actually get us a nice little performance improvement. And also this 8 right here can probably be a 7. So we're going to make it a 7. And let's try 2824 and 1010. Like, if it runs 1010, I'll be very impressed. Okay, no, it won't. So I'm going to assume that I screwed it up by punching in the 1010 instead of the TCWL. I might be wrong about that, but in my memory overclocking experience, I would assume it's the 1010, not the TCWL setting. I'm not actually sure that pressing end and then scrolling up is faster. It feels faster, but I'm not sure that it's faster. And it goes... I wonder if it'll do 1T command rate. Do I really want to mess with... you know what, we're also going to enable trace centering for that, just because... well, with certain B-die kits, that's a requirement for 1T command rate. And so now if it gets to the 4F postcode, it's going to be on there for a while. Like, it's not stuck. This is just... so 1T command rate on mainstream Intel platforms requires some extra training routines that the motherboard vendor has to implement. And so if you have a... Oh, it does 1T. That's impressive. Yeah, but so basically it'll sit on the 4F postcode because there's extra training that has to happen to get 1T command rate working. And not all motherboards have that. Like, some motherboards just do 1T command rate because the way they implement it is a bit faster or something. And then there's a lot of motherboards that just don't do 1T command rate above like 3600 megahertz, which is normally, like, if you have a motherboard that has the optimizations for 1T command rate at high frequencies, then you'll, like, you can go to high frequencies. If you don't, normally 1T command rate breaks at 3600. So yeah, this should be really fast now. Because, like, we're at 1 T command rate, TCWL16. I think this should be quick. RTLs are still, not, like, they're lower, but they're not great. And IOLs. Like, the IO latency values right here, these have a big effect on, like, your IDA latency score. So, it is actually kind of annoying that. So, like, wait, why is the TWR so high? I probably screwed something up. Yeah, okay, so we're still getting 42.2 nanos. Well, well, it's an improvement, but it's not that big. Memory read. Getting still about 64 gigs. I wonder what Geekbench says, because the thing is, IDA is a bit insensitive in my opinion. So, previously we got just over 8,000. I would expect 8,100, maybe like 8,150. Oh, whoa, 8,300. And that's why I like Geekbench more than IDA. Like, IDA is really, really synthetic, in my experience. So a lot of the time it won't show, like, like there are certain timings that you can make massive changes to them, and IDA will basically not care. And then a lot of other actual, like, workloads, like, say, like, Geekbench picks up on it, but also there are, like, Geekbench is still very benchmarky, but Linpack will often pick up on certain timing changes better than IDA does. What else is there? TimeSpy Extreme. Well, TimeSpy CPU test. Extreme or otherwise, both of them are pretty memory sensitive. Um, the like what, like, depends on the workloads. Like, the thing is, most of my, like most of what I do with overclocking is overclocking for the sake of benchmark. So it's just like, yeah, I know a lot of benchmarks that scale, but it's like, oh, but they're still synthetic, and it's like, yeah, but a lot of them are trying to emulate real world workloads, whereas IDA is just kind of like, IDA's memory bandwidth test is literally like, we are testing memory bandwidth very specifically. That's all we care about, not like practical memory access that, you know, some of the other benchmarks are actually trying, like, the other benchmarks are actually trying to, you know, maybe complete some calculation that happens to just require a lot of memory bandwidth, whereas IDA is just like, no, we are measuring memory performance, and there's a difference in that, in terms of how that interacts with the memory. So I'm guessing what I screwed up is I set up the like, I guess, yeah, that's probably what I screwed up. Now, the thing is, on the ASUS boards, if you set your TWR to a, like, I'm not sure if it's, like, always, but at least sometimes, if you set your TWR, it'll often end up, like, 1 tick higher than what you punched in. I was trying to preempt that, but I think I screwed it up. Where is it? Oh yeah, so TWR pre right now is 37. So I think if we go into Windows, we're going to see a 17 TWR instead of the 16 that I punched in. So I'm going to just set that to 36. Anyway, at this point, I'm pretty happy with the timings on this. Like, this is fast. Now, is it stable? That is a whole nother question, isn't it? But, I wonder if I can run low TRAS. Let's see. I'm just going to punch in 28 and see if that works. Okay, no, it doesn't. Like, it did just boot loop, so I'm assuming it doesn't. Unless maybe the TWR pre thing screwed it up. Like, the thing is, I don't normally have to set TWR pre because most motherboards don't do that thing where they set your TWR one higher. I wonder if these can do 5 gigahertz. Like, I really need to take these on a spin with a Ryzen at this point. Because it would be cool if they did 5 gigahertz. Right? Like, again, it would be completely useless because 5 gigahertz on Ryzen isn't something you do for the performance because you end up with desynced Infinity Fabric, and so ultimately you look like the performance you end up with isn't worth it, like, at all. But it would still be really cool to just be able to say, yeah, I have 32 gigs running 5 gigahertz for screenshots. It is very upset about something. I wonder if this actually has like a TRAS floor, because there's a lot of memory sticks where you can just lower the TRAS to, like, the memory controller literally won't allow you to set the TRAS any lower. So like on Intel mainstream, you can't set TRAS below 28. On X299 you can actually set it really, really low, but I can't remember how low right now. Or, like, I don't know where the limit is. I think it might be like 16 or something completely stupid like that. And then on Ryzen, apparently it's limited to 21 as a minimum value. I wonder if I screwed up the TWR pre thing. Well, we'll see if we get that 09 code again. Man, the 1T command rate training thing is annoying. Just sitting on the 4F code for so long. Okay, no, it isn't. Oh, so these actually have a TRAS floor. That's interesting. I was not expecting that. As you can clearly tell from, you know, me having to mess with that. Because there's, like, a lot of ICs where, like, on... Actually, I remember on X99, there was a bunch of memory ICs where you could run, like, 15 TRAS. Which is just absolutely ridiculous. Okay, so 38 works. Oh, wait, actually, no, because it happens... Okay, no, 38 does seem to work. So at this point, I would be hoping for like 8,500 Geekbench, maybe 8,400, something like that. I wonder, like, I really wonder how stable this is at this point. Because if this is also stable, then that would be like it scores well. Like for extreme overclockers, the target for like benchmark purposes, Geekbench 3 memory score is 10,000. So for daily setups, you know, that's why for daily setups I aim between 8,000 and sort of 9,000, and it's just like, yeah, if you can land in between those two values, it's like good. And if you can do over 9,000, that's really good. Because going over 9,000 is actually like going significantly over 9,000 is quite hard. And yeah, so if we get like 8,400, 8,500, I'd be very, very happy with the performance, assuming that it was also stable. But well, we would need to run some Mem Test and some LinPack. Only issue is I've not actually managed to get LinPack stable on this motherboard. Okay, so we're getting 8,427. Like, this is fast. This is like really fast. Also, that's a nice 50,000 multi-core. That's nice. Like, it's nice that you just get the bunch of zeros. Anyway, so let's run IDA now. Because a lot of people, you know, I get it. Like, a lot of people, they don't run Geekbench 3. They have no idea how Geekbench 3 compares to their system. So, but a lot of people run IDA. So here's your IDA. And I guess somebody's like, why, Buildzoid, why are you going through this? This is just more convenient, in my opinion. Okay, so we're getting 42 nanoseconds. If I learn how to do RTLs and IOLs, then that can definitely be fixed. Like, you can definitely go sub 40 nanoseconds if you set the RTLs correctly. It's just, I'm not that good at memory overclocking. We actually lost performance? Really? The thing is, the margin of error on IDA is also kind of big. Yeah, see? It went up a gig because I reran it. Like, what a horrible benchmark. I mean, to be fair, like, Geekbench isn't the most, like, the Geekbench memory score isn't the world's most consistent benchmark either, but it's a lot more consistent than IDA is. Also, if you dial in the RTLs and IOLs, the bandwidth would actually go up a bit more, just because if you are quicker to access the data in the memory, then you can obviously access more of the data faster, right? Like, if you think about it as a person running around a warehouse fetching stuff, if the guy is faster at finding things when he needs to fetch them, then he can fetch more things in the same amount of time. That's why lowering a lot of the timings increases your memory bandwidth. Just like latency and bandwidth go hand in hand. Low latency translates into higher bandwidth just because you can get to the data. Like, if you can find the data faster, you can move it faster too. Though the thing is, the hard cap to bandwidth is, of course, the absolute memory frequency. So it's like having crazy low latencies at 3,000 megahertz. You're not really going to have that great bandwidth no matter what you do because, well, at the end of the day, you're just running 3,000 megahertz. So there's a pretty hard cap on how much data you can actually transfer across your 264-bit memory channels at 3,000 megahertz. But if you're running at 4533, then you can move a lot more data. So anyway, let's run Mem Test. Like, the thing is, obviously, a couple percentage points of Mem Test doesn't mean anything, but it's always interesting to see if it immediately starts puking out errors, because there are admittedly a lot of memory configurations where you can pass Geekbench, you can pass IDA, and then you open Mem Test, and it's just like bleh, all over the screen, and then it locks up and dies and everything. So, but no, this is actually quite quite stable. We haven't even reached 1%. Actually, no, some of these have managed to do 1%. So, yeah, we've not checked more than like. We're maybe approaching like 1% of the memory being tested at this point. And also, like, for Mem Test, you want to run it out to like 400%. You don't run it to like 1%. But the fact that it isn't immediately just puking errors everywhere, that's a good sign. That's a pretty good sign. So now I also want to just hit it with LinPack, but I'm really like, I don't think I have the CPU stable. So there's a pretty good chance that LinPack is just immediately going to faceplant. Let's try, shall we? And what do I want to run? Let's run 8 gigs. Let's run 3 passes. Yes, yes, no. So the fun thing with LinPack and unstable memory overclocks is as soon as it reaches the like 8 gigs of memory usage, it might lock up, which is pretty quick. Otherwise, yeah, we might end up sitting here a while. So 8 gigs, 9 gigs, and it didn't lock up. Nice. And there goes the Inferno. That's actually not running that hot. Which makes me worried. I probably didn't set the core voltage high enough for 5.1 gigahertz if it's not running that hot. I guess we'll find out. Okay, there's our first loop done. So it should spit out a result soon. I don't think that's correct. Like, I don't think that residual is correct for an 8 gig workload size. We'll do another loop to see if they match. Though 635 gigaflops in LinPack, like, that's fast. That's like that is actually really fast. I think the highest I've done is like 660, which was with a 4x8 memory setup, so that was, dual rank, and that helps in LinPack. Okay, there's our second pass. And yeah, so the results don't match. So this probably, like, yeah, this isn't completely stable, but it could be the CPU overclock or the cache or so many things. Because again, like, I don't know exactly what settings I need to run on this board yet, but yeah, so this crucial memory is good. It is really, really good for, like, you can run, like, if you have an Apex or really any, like, 2-DIMM motherboard, in my opinion, like, this is totally a good kit of memory to go for if you've got a 2-DIMM motherboard. Because unlike, say, dual rank Samsung B-die kits, dual rank Samsung B-die kits have a tendency to be extremely picky about the BIOSes, and they have a really hard time clocking high and actually, like, achieving the kind of performance you would expect out of a 2x8 kit of B-die. Well, with 2x16, very difficult. But yeah, these are 2x16, and, like, this seems to work great. Like, again, I need to dial in the stability, but that, like, you know what, if I'm gonna test the stability, like, the way I'm gonna solve the stability issue for LinPack is I'm just gonna drop the CPU clocks and see if the memory can do it. Yeah, this is a great kit. Like, I'm impressed. I mean, going into like, and the thing is, I'm pretty sure in terms of the frequency, we're, like, CPU limited here, not memory limited. So if I could go for more if I raise the system agent voltage, I would assume we could run higher frequencies, but I definitely want to try this kit with some other CPUs just to see if, with maybe a better memory controller, higher frequencies aren't possible. And I'm doing a 5 gigahertz test on this. Like, it went all the way up to 4800 on this 10900K, so I would be very surprised if it didn't do 5 gigahertz on a Ryzen. Actually, I wonder if this would go over 5 gigahertz with, like, maybe 5.1, 5.2. I don't think my Ryzen memory controllers are good enough for that, but I guess we'll find out. Like, yeah, so this is a really, really cool kit. Like, I'm a big fan of this. So, Anyway, here's the kit again. It's this. If you're lucky, I'll remember to put the part number down in the description. And yeah, but otherwise you can just copy it out of the video, because this, like, yeah, this is a really quick kit. Like, I was not expecting it to go this well, or like get this far. But for 32 gigs on 2 DIMMs, like, yeah, this is killer. So yeah, that is it for the video. Thanks for watching. Like, share, subscribe, leave any comments, questions, suggestions down in the comment section below. If you'd like to support what I do here with actually hardcore overclocking, I have a Patreon, as well as a Teespring store where you can pick up shirts, stickers, posters, and, you know, the usual YouTuber merch. So there are links to both of those down in the description below, and they help out immensely with running the channel. It's like how I got my Maximus 12 Apex Patreon and Teespring. That's how I got that board. So yeah, and thank you to Crucial for the memory kit. And that's it. So thanks for watching, and goodbye.